Hey, good morning, everyone.
Hey, good morning, Professor.
Hey, good morning, Richard. Well, you finally caught up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Good
yeah.
morning,
Last week
Professor.
it was
Yeah,
I forgot
good.
who the other student was. We were like freaking out because we were just watching the videos and going back to collaborate to see that one room that I guess wasn't supposed to
Yeah.
exist.
Well, at least that time wasn't wasted. Good morning, Kula. I thought I saw Kula a while ago.
Yeah, I'm here.
Good morning. How are you? Good.
Good.
So we have we have five people. Now, I hope everybody else will join in a couple of minutes. But if you haven't, I mean, before I came to the collaborate session, I quickly checked uh, the discussion board, and not everybody was signed into the collaborate. I mean the discussion board. So let me share my screen with you. Share screen. And oh no, I just why did I do that? Share screen, and okay, so you can see my screen now, and you see this is today's forum. Let me refresh. I have only I see only four people in today's forum. Please remember, the first order of business is not coming to the collaborate session, but to report your attendance in in the discussion board. Okay, that's the first order of business because it's crucial that you leave your digital footprint or your uh, physical proof of attendance. Okay, so don't forget, if you haven't done it yet, please go to the discussion board. And there is only one forum open there, today's forum, of course. And then go into today's forum, use this create thread button. It doesn't look like a button because it doesn't stand out from the background, but when you bring your mouse cursor right above it, it will, you see, it will, change to gray. The background will change to gray. So that's something I don't like about Blackboard. I like it in general, but what I don't like about it is that if it is a link, it should stand out. It should have a different color from the background so it can stand out. But it doesn't. So people generally, uh, just by mistake, just skip it. But please create your attendance report. Okay, that's the first order of business. All righty, so I see so far seven people, but in the collaborate session I have eight people, so at least one person still needs to report attendance. Okay, because I can't remember, I mean, although I see, names of people here, but after the session is over, um, I don't remember, who was there. So you need to have physical proof of attendance, and it's your responsibility to establish that proof of physical proof of attendance. Okay. Now, so we were. Let's just.
Um,
Yeah.
Professor, do you
Yeah.
put name to the subject area? Your name goes
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
subject.
In the
Okay, I did that just now.
yeah, just see, look at what other people have done, right? Last name, comma, and first name in the subject line,
Mm-hmm.
because you in the roster that I got from the registrar, everything is, all official documents are listed by your last name. So put your last name first, so it will be easier to match with the
Okay.
match this list with the roster. All righty, so back to in our last class, we were discussing, the structure of the income statement, and I left you with a question. The question was, in the CGS section, right? Remember, income statement is basically, consists of income section and expenses section, and of course, naturally, you would have to subtract all the expenses from income, and then you arrive at operating income, what they call operating income or operating profit. But looking into the further analysis of the income section reveals that the income comes from two major sources, right? Major, I said major, not minuscule. There may be small, minuscule, minor sources, but the main source of income is, of course, revenue, sales revenue. Every company, every business has to sell something, right? So whether it is a physical product or service, or non-tangible good, or service is very basically non-tangible good, but whatever it may be, every business must sell something. So that's the main source of their revenue. Sales revenue is the main source, right? Travel agencies sell, travel experience, right? They also sell, tickets to airlines, or airline tickets, or hotels, package, those things are, experience good, right? Goods that are not physical, but goods that consist of experience. And then secondary source of income is investment income. Companies, use their funds, basically, the major source of the funds to invest is their net profit, right? Their net profit will be used, some of the net profit will be invested into the stock market. Some of the net profit will be invested in bonds or in lending, right, through the banks, or some of it is still reinvested in their own. Some of it is still reinvested in their own growth, company's expansion of the business. So, but but that would be the secondary source of income, right? Secondary source of income. And some people might ask, what about rental income? Blah blah blah. Rental income would also be a part of investment income, because if this business has some real estate, and that's not their main business. Unless it is a real estate management firm, or unless you are the owner of the rental property, in which case your major source of income would be the rental income, and that's actually your sales revenue, because you sold the property or rented out the property. Whether you lease or sublet the property, the income from it is like sales revenue. It's comparable to sales revenue of regular other businesses. But for most businesses, income from real estate is rather investment income, right? Because that's not their major primary source of primary operation. It's just secondary operation. So
Professor.
by owning rental properties, for most businesses that would be and income from that would be investment income, because they invested in the rental property. Yeah, did someone say something? Was
Yeah,
someone
that
trying
that
to
was
say?
that was me, Richard. I just had a quick question as far as balance sheets goes, and when it comes to rental properties, um,
Uh-huh.
what would how would appreciation or mortgage as you pay off your mortgage on an investment
Yeah.
property, how exactly would that be shown on a balance sheet
Oh,
to show equity and stuff?
yeah. Well, paying off. I mean, basically, amortizing, paying down. If you have fully paid off, um, if you have fully paid off your mortgage, basically your mortgage will be reflected in the balance sheet as debt, right? Mortgage will be part of your debt, and then your bill, the uh, the mortgage helped pay for to the mortgage helped basically purchasing that property. So the property is value of the property is reflected uh, in the asset side. For example, you got let's say 90% mortgage on $1 million property. So basically, there was 10% of your down payment. 10% is your down payment. Anyway, you raised funds for $1 million, right? 90% was mortgage, and then with 1 million you bought the property. So there will be 1 million recorded here
Okay,
in the
all right,
and
I
then
see that now.
in the
Thank you.
on the asset I mean on the asset side, and on the balance on the debt and equity side. In the equity, um, your 100,000 will be recorded here. $900,000 mortgage will be recorded here, and if you have fully paid it off, then this will be zero, and your equity will be 1 million, and your property will be 1 million. So they will still balance out. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I was thinking on
Okay.
the income side, but now that you're showing me
No,
the
no,
other
no,
side,
no.
that's completely
Yeah,
different.
yeah.
All right,
Well,
thank you.
balance sheet and income statement are, actually totally different. I mean, uh, uh, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but the line items in the balance sheet and the line items in the income statement are completely different. And there are only two things, if I remember correct, there are only two things, two line items that are common. One is, uh, one is depreciation. The other one was what, interest? Interest. Yeah, interest expense will show up on the uh, it can show up on the current liability side, but basically the line, almost 95% of the line items in balance sheet and income statement are different, because they serve different purposes, right? So yeah, this is about time to bring this up. People generally, believe somehow. This is a mistaken belief. People generally believe that the uh, income statement and balance sheet are both about profit, um, because it easily and it easily crosses your mind. If it is about the business, then isn't it about the profit? Um, yeah, it's not entirely wrong. I mean, as far as the goal of the business. I mean, goal of any business and every business, no matter what they put out, no matter what they hang in the front, right? In the front, they say, we serve the community, we serve the happiness, the well-being, the benefit of the entire human race, as if it is a philanthropy. No business is a philanthropy, if you think about it. Only the nonprofit organizations are serving that philanthropy purpose. But all private businesses, right? All commercial businesses are basically, serving their own self-interest, right? Unless you are a nonprofit, nobody serves any, greater well-being or greater good of the people, right? So, but they always lie, in their a public relations page, go to their homepage, go to their annual report, first page of the annual report. Every company is trying to put on a mask, put on a face of, utilitarian, they are trying to put on utilitarian mask, right? As if they are trying to serve the benefit of the entire human race. But that's all a lie. All businesses basically, unless you are a nonprofit, every business is there to serve their own self-interest. And even the nonprofits, if you look into the nonprofits, actually they are also serving their own agenda. Nonprofit, they are just not seeking profit as their primary goal, but they are trying to promote their own agenda, right? But anyway, the point is, because all businesses exist to maximize their profit, people are easily led to think that the income statement and balance sheet are all about profit. But that's wrong. One thing, income statement, yes, that's all about profit, because what is the conclusion of all of these activities? The conclusion is net income or net profit. So income statement is about the profit. Income statement is basically a step-by-step derivation or step-by-step process to arrive at net profit. Okay, so let me just to make clear. Okay, let me draw some borderline under I got the line color, line style. So here, okay. So if you think about it, the point is all about income statement is all about profit. That's for sure, no denying. But balance sheet is not about profit. Balance sheet is about showing the balance, right? Balance sheet is about showing the balance between asset side and liability side. So you might wonder then, so does balance sheet have nothing to do with profit? Well, eventually it will have to do with profit, because as the profit increases, then the equity side will have to increase as well. Profit will be reflected in the equity side eventually. But for now, you need to completely separate the purpose of income statement from the purpose of the balance sheet. And because they serve different purposes and different goals, then the line items are completely different. Their line items are completely different. Okay. So, we were still talking about what we did last. So, two sources of income: sales revenue and investment income. And revenue, we talked about it. It can be easily summarized as quantity sold times price. Isn't that right? Remember that revenue is quantity times price. Quantity sold times price. Okay, so don't try to define revenue. Don't try to define anything verbally. Okay, from now on, you just purge that verbal definitions out of your mind. It can be simply expressed and succinctly, very succinctly expressed by math. So total revenue. So let me. I already wrote it here. Revenue, or this TR, of course, stands for total revenue. Total revenue is quantity times price, Q times P, right? Quantity sold times price. Now, investment income cannot be that simply summed up, because there can be multiple sources of investment income. But then, if there are two sources of, income, then there are also two sources of expenses. One is CGS, and the other one is operating expenses. So let me, and I told you, CGS is the cost of goods sold, which can be also expressed as cost of revenue. And I spent a lot of time in the last class explaining why cost of goods sold is the cost side of the revenue. And since it's the cost side of the revenue, it's also called cost of revenue. Okay, now so my question at the time was, and I also talked about, what are the components of the CGS? The components of CGS, which is also called direct cost. You can say the components of CGS are beginning inventory, net purchase, and ending inventory. Yes, that's true, but that's just on the surface. That's not analytical. I mean, it's only analytical on the surface, but if you really get to the nits and grits, right? If you really get to the nits and grits of the CGS, because CGS is, I told you, CGS is another name for, CGS is a name they use in accounting. But in microeconomics, I told you, in microeconomics is called what? Anybody? Does anybody remember what?
Capital?
No. In microeconomics, capital is only one component of the direct cost. If you watch the video again, right, or went over, I posted, you see in the topic 1 folder, the August 28th recording is there. And if you watched it, and don't just watch it once, you must watch it as many times as you feel fully fully comfortable with the material. And if you watched it, in other words, until you fully comprehend it, you must watch it as many times as it takes for you to fully comprehend it. But if you remember, CGS is also called direct cost, right? Direct cost, right? That means, operating expenses are called indirect cost, right? Now, so CGS is only the accounting's terminology. Direct cost is also called in microeconomics. What's it called? Anyone? Nobody remembers this? It's called total variable cost. That's what it is called in microeconomics. Total variable cost.
The what?
What?
You said it's called what again? The total variable cost?
Yeah, total variable cost. Okay, I
Alright.
don't know why I see that. Is this? Why is it still here? Okay, that was there. It's called total variable cost. And why is it called that way? Why is it called total variable cost? Huh? In the last class, I spent so much time on explaining this, because your direct cost is a result of your output, right? Direct cost is a direct result of your output. Output means what? That's, how many units you produce. That's the output, right? It could be just 1 unit, it can be 1,000 units. But if you're a manufacturer, and manufacturing a physical good, let's say a wireless mouse. If you're manufacturing a wireless mouse, and if the wireless mouse is $10 per unit. If you produced 1,000 units, right? The total direct cost is 10 times 1,000. So that's 10,000. If you produce 10 units, just $100, right? If you produced 100 units, $1,000. So what does that mean? It simply means that the direct cost is the result of how many units you produced times the production cost per unit. Right? Does everybody remember this? Is that so difficult? It's very straightforward and common sense. Isn't it right? It's a common sense based. If you are making, a wireless mouse, and for you, if it costs $10 per unit to make it, right? If you produced only 1 unit, your total direct cost is just $10. If you produced 10 units, $100. If you produced 100 units, $1,000. If you produced 1,000 units, that's $10,000, and so on. If you produce 100,000 units, that's going to be $1 million. You understand? And that $1 million is the dollar value of your total output. Okay, is everyone clear about that? that $1 million is the dollar value of your total production level or total output. Okay? And it is, you can tell it varies with the production level. It varies. If your production level is 10, then it's only $100. If your production level is 1,000, it's then 10,000. Right? Everyone is clear about that? Because you're just, there's no response. Okay.
It's clear.
Okay. I see it too. Anna, is that clear? Anna?
Yeah, I'm with you so far. I'm with you.
Okay. So that's Ethan. Ethan, is that clear? Ethan, are you there? Come on. Jenith, are you there? Jenith?
Sorry,
Yeah.
Professor, are you calling me?
No, Janeth, I was calling Janeth. Ethan, are you there, Ethan? Oh, okay, clear. Janeth, is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, Kula, is that clear? Why is called total variable cost?
Yeah.
Okay, Richard, is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Tyra, is that clear why it's called total variable cost?
Yeah.
Okay. Yenchu, is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, all right, great. So, because everybody was just quiet, there's no way. So, yeah, that's why it's called, a direct cost, because it's that's why it's called, first of all, that's why it's called direct cost, because it represents the cost that's directly involved in production activity, right? The cost that goes directly into the production. And I assumed, it's $10 to produce 1 unit of wireless mouse, right? And if it's $10 per unit, that's called, per unit production cost, right? That's literally production cost per unit. And if you break it down, so what would make up those $10? I mean, why is it $10? I mean, what goes into those, $10? Well, that $10 is basically, if you break it down, that's the cost of capital, right? The physical capital that goes into that, and it's the cost of labor, right? Labor per unit, right? Labor, in other words, wage that goes into that, the cost of labor that goes into 1 unit, right? And the raw material or natural resource that goes into the production of that 1 unit. Okay, makes sense. And capital here refers to the physical capital, right? Cost of using the production equipment. Okay? Capital doesn't necessarily mean only money capital. Capital means, basically means of production. Means of production is capital. That's like, already, old, very old concept. Capital means, means of production. So it's physical capital, right? Not money capital of like production equipment. So that's the breakdown of the direct cost, right? You understand? That's more, analytical part. I told you, beginning inventory, net purchase, ending inventory. It's only the surface. That's the analysis of only the surface. Because if you're looking only at the finished goods, then yeah, you can classify it into a beginning inventory, net purchase, and ending inventory. But if you look at the process, to arrive at the finished goods, then they started out from the factors of production, or inputs of production, right? Which are basically capital, labor, and raw material. And they, per unit, it costs $10, right? Altogether per unit. So now here we understand that the how we can express total variable cost. I told you CGS is accounting's terminology. Total variable cost is the microeconomics terminology. Okay, and total variable cost can be then expressed as production cost per unit, right? Production cost per unit times quantity built. Quantity built. Okay, just like total revenue that can be expressed as price times quantity sold, right? Price times quantity sold, just like that. Total variable cost can be expressed as production cost per unit times quantity built. Okay, but again, then I told you production cost per unit, another name for that, another name for production cost per unit is, what is that? It's called average variable cost, right? Production cost per unit is also called average variable cost. Why? You understand that the production cost per unit times quantity built or quantity produced is total variable cost, is TVC, right? So then TVC divided by quantity is production cost per unit. TVC divided by quantity is production cost per unit. Isn't that right? It's simple, if Z equals X times Y, Z is Z divided by Y, right? And you arrive at total by multiplying production cost per unit by quantity, right? Dividing total by quantity will lead you to the production cost per unit. But think about it. If you divide total by quantity, what is that? That's average, isn't it right? If you divide total by quantity, that's average, right? It's as simple as that. If I think about it, if I want to take the average height of everyone in this class, what would I do? I will first measure everyone's individual height, right? And then sum it up. That's total. And I divide it by number of people. That's quantity. And that's what? That's called average, right? The result is called average. Isn't it right? So total variable cost divided by quantity built is called average variable cost. And already by the name, per unit, think about it, per unit. When you say per unit, what does that mean? You are dividing it by the number of units. Isn't it right? When we say per unit, per something, that already means you're dividing it by something, by the number of data points, number of observations. Right? Everyone, is that clear?
Yep.
Okay, good. Yeah. So if you look at the process side, total variable cost is basically average variable cost times quantity built, just like total revenue is price times quantity sold. But I told you total variable cost is microeconomics terminology, whereas CGS is accounting's terminology. And whereas the direct cost, CGS is the direct cost, operating expenses. Now think about it. Operating expenses are called an indirect cost. Okay, somebody's microphone may be on, so there's some background noise. And if you could mute your microphone if you're not speaking, right, I would appreciate it. The indirect cost is called indirect. I mean, think about it. Why was CGS called direct cost? Because it changes directly with the production level. That's why it's called direct cost. Not only because it's about the direct components, the components that directly go into the production, right? In other words, also called, inputs of production. Not only because it is about the inputs that directly go into the production, right? But also because that cost varies with the production level, with the output level. Okay, does that make sense? But then indirect cost is, why is it called indirect cost? Because it is not directly related with production. It's not directly related to production. These are expenses that are not directly, only indirectly related to production. Now think about it. These direct cost is directly related to production, because if you increase production, this will increase too, right? If you decrease production, this will decrease too. But the indirect cost is not directly related to production. It's not directly related to production level. So I believe we also talked about this last time, didn't we?
I don't think so.
Okay, all right. All right. So the idea is, now suppose you double the production level. If you double the production level, then everything, if you double the production level, then what should happen to these? What should happen to the inputs of production? Huh?
They should increase.
They will increase.
Yeah, they should double too. Isn't that right? They should double too. The usage of capital must double, labor must double, raw materials must double. I mean, physically, you're doubling the production level. So obviously, the raw materials must double. That goes without saying. Raw materials must double. I mean, without, if you're making a wireless mouse, basically the plastic, whatever, the parts that go into the wireless mouse, they have to double, right? Otherwise, you cannot double the physical production output level of the wireless mouse. Labor, yes. I mean, there are two things. Think about it. There are two things. The labor, you would have to, labor has to double, but it can happen in two ways. It can happen in two ways. One, you hire twice as many workers, because you will have to double the production level. You'll have to hire twice. You'll have to double the number of workers, or you double their hours. You keep the same number of workers, but double their hours. But still, you will have to pay double, right? Because if you double their hours, then I mean, we are assuming that there is no. We're assuming that there is no labor regulation that bans, that prohibits, putting making people work, more than 8 hours a day. Or, I mean, if there is no such regulation, you can double. And, even if there is such a regulation, then, if they volunteer, I mean, you're going to get double pay. Why would you not? I mean, for a short period of time. It's a short burst, not like, you're permanently working double time, but you're working double time just for 1 week or 2 weeks, and you're getting double paid. I think, nobody will, nobody will object, right? Nobody will object to that. Double their hours. And usually the company, what the company would do is, rather than doubling the hire, right? Rather than doubling the hire, they would double the hours, because think about it. Simply from the labor management relationship, if you double the hire, then when they scale back down the production level, then these excess number of people that you hired, you will have to lay them off, and it's gonna be a difficult thing, right? If there is no labor law, I mean, if there is no law against firing people, then it would be easy. You can just hire temporarily and lay them off. I mean, you can hire them on a temporary basis as well. But if you once you hire, in manufacturing, especially in manufacturing, it's difficult to fire. And in manufacturing, it's not, it's skilled labor. I mean, the labor that they need in manufacturing is skilled labor, and skilled labor is not is hard to come by. I mean, skilled labor doesn't just come overnight. You have to train them, and up to a certain level. It takes time, and it takes, from the company's perspective, it's an investment, and so you cannot, just because you double the hire, they cannot easily work. They cannot. It doesn't mean they can be easily put to work the very day, right? So because of those, labor issues, right? They cannot. If it's possible, the company won't double the hire, but they will just double the hours. Okay, and also usage of physical capital, production equipment will have to double. Now, in this is we can, the discussion can go further, because another factor is technology. I mean, if with the technology, if it is a labor saving technology, you don't have to even double the labor, but technology part will take care of that. Or also, if it is capital saving technology, then you don't have to double the usage of capital. But that's another discussion. So we'll just leave it at that. If you double the production level, you will have to double all the inputs of production, right? So basically, it's called direct cost, because the total variable cost, or the direct cost, changes. Change means vary, right? Isn't it right? Vary and change, they are synonyms, right? Simply, they are synonyms. So total cost varies together with the production level, directly with the production level. That's why it's called direct cost. But then indirect cost doesn't vary. It doesn't change with the production level. So let's think about this. So let's say you are renting or leasing your space, right? Your company, you don't own the building. You lease or rent the space. I mean, if you lease, you pay the rent, of course. And in case you are leasing or renting the space, then you have to pay the rent, right? And but does the rent change with the production level? Does the rent change with the production level? Just because your production level doubled, does your rent double?
No.
No, not at all. Yeah, it's obvious. So something like that. There are expenses that don't change with the production level. For example, rent, utilities, depreciation of the physical assets, administrative costs, administrative expenses. They don't change with the production level. That's why it's called indirect cost. Then you might wonder, salaries. How come salaries don't change? Okay, salaries that is listed here. That's the there are two types of workers. If you think about it, there are two types of employees. One, if you're a manufacturer, right? Think about it. If you're a manufacturer, there are production workers that are directly put on the production line, right? So their hours double, then they get the overtime pay. They get overtime pay. That overtime pay is part of the direct cost. But there are also clerical or administrative staff, not the production staff, but the administrative or clerical. What's a good example? Secretaries. Secretaries are clearly clerical staff. Clerical, right? Now, do you need to double the secretaries? Do you need to double the number of secretaries when your production level doubles?
No.
No.
No. Exactly. I mean, and who gave me that answer? Who said no?
Anna.
Hannah?
Anna.
Oh, Anna. Anna.
Anna, yeah.
Okay. Anna, and who else? I heard two voices.
Janet.
Janet. Okay. Okay. Anna and it's Janeth, right? Janeth.
Correct.
With TH, right? Okay. Okay. Anna and Janeth, you both got 0.25 for that answer, right? So today is 9/11 actually. And fnb230. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's obvious. It's not a difficult answer, but people generally don't come forward with even such a common sense. Yeah. If you're not production staff, right? The number doesn't have to double. I mean, if you're production staff, either the number of production staff must be doubled or the number of hours must be doubled when the production level increases, but when the production level doubles, right? But clerical staff, number of clerical staff, number of their hours don't have to double directly. Commensurate directly commensurate with in direct proportion to the production level. You might say, oh, their hours may increase. They'll increase a little because if the company is running, more busily than before, if the company is running more busily, because if production is doubled, obviously the company will be more, will be busier. That goes without saying. Yeah, so the secretaries may work a little more hours. They may need to work a little more hours, but then a few more hours, but it's not in direct proportion to the output level. It doesn't double exactly. So those are basically, salaries. And also these salaries would involve the base salary that is being paid to the base salary. Base salary would be some constant number, right? Base salary would be some constant number. Base salary for the production workers, yeah, that would be part of this. So these numbers are basically relatively constant. You understand? There may be, like month to month small variations, but it's not directly changing with the production level. That goes without saying. Okay, so that's what is indirect cost, right? And the indirect cost is also, called operating expenses, or OPEX for short. Okay, it's obvious. What OPEX, right? Operating expenses, right? So now, then we have listed two major sources of expenses already, direct cost and indirect cost. Direct cost is called CGS, also called total variable cost in microeconomics. Indirect cost is also called operating expenses, or OPEX, and this is in microeconomics. It is called microeconomics. It is roughly equivalent to total fixed cost. Operating expenses, I said roughly equivalent to. The symbol is this. This means not equal to, but roughly equal to, right? Or I said roughly equal to because it's not exactly the same. But the logic behind total fixed cost, it should be clear to you. It should be quite understandable why it's called total fixed cost, because they are relatively constant numbers. They are fixed numbers, right? They are not changing. They don't vary with the production level. So looking at the expenses, if you're looking at the expenses, the division between the two, the criteria for division between the two is whether it changes with the production level or not, right? So if it doesn't change with the production level, it's operating expenses, or total fixed cost. And the reason it is not exactly the same thing, the reason why TFC is not exactly the same thing as operating expenses is in microeconomics, total fixed cost focuses more on the initial investment, the sunk cost. Okay, a sunk cost. Sunk cost means, think about it. If you are a manufacturer, right? If you are a manufacturer, let's say you are making the wireless mouse, and it's because it's a manufacturing, you must first have a plant. Plant is an imperative, right, for any manufacturing. So if you have a plant, then that means you have, the land, and the factory is built upon above the land, and in the factory there is production equipment, right? This requires, think about it. It must be already in place before you even start the business. Isn't that right? The plant must be in place, already in place and ready to produce even before you start the business. You understand? there can be no there. So that's initial investment, isn't it right? Having the plant in place, right? That's the initial investment, and this cost has to be recovered. I mean, to recover this cost, you cannot back out of the business. You have to go forward. You have to produce the products. You have to produce the goods and sell them, right? You have to do this for many years to recover that initial investment. Because think about it, the initial investment is it's a manufacturing, and so it will be at least millions of dollars. It cannot be you cannot have a manufacturing, especially if it is something like computer related peripherals, right? You need to, please mute your microphone. Please mute your microphone. If your microphone
this thing is getting crazy. So.
If your microphone is on,
Okay.
please mute
it.
it.
It's a trial? Yes.
We should.
Yes, sir?
We should.
All right. So.
Professor?
Yeah.
What did you call it? A sunken fund?
Oh no, sunk cost. Sunk cost. No,
Does that sound like similar to like a sinking fund? Like the
No. No, it's not. It's not similar to sinking fund. Sinking fund is, I mean, the concept of
like
sinking.
Not exactly,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Well, yeah, sunk cost. Okay, because think about it. The initial investment is already sunk into this project. Initial investment is already sunk into this project. In other words, even before you start the business, let's say to start to build. We assumed wireless mouse, right? So your company is making wireless mouse or other computer peripherals, right? And then you must have this plant already. You must build this plant. To the cost that goes into the construction of this plant is already sunk into this business. I mean, before you even start the business, the cost is already sunk in that project, right? You understand? Hence called sunk cost, sunk, right? Yeah, sinking fund has also the, I mean, the word, just metaphorically, sinking fund, you're making, every deposit you make, they are sinking into the, that account. So it's called the sinking fund, but, so sunk cost is initial investment, right? And this initial investment is already there even before you start the production, even before you start the business. So you have to start production, and you have to recover the sunk cost from the profits generated from the cash flow generated from the sale, right? All righty. So it's already 10:36. So we need to take a 10-minute break. I didn't get your answer because remember, the answer was, the question was, what from the last class? The question was what? Looking at this, CGS, looking at the CGS section, right? I told you, it's not in chronological order. I mean, you have to have beginning inventory to begin the month, or to begin the quarter, to start the quarter. But yeah, and then during that period, you have to you have to make net purchase. In other words, the beginning inventory won't be good enough to meet the demand for your goods for the entire operating period. So you order, again. I mean, if you're a retailer, you order again. That's the net purchase. And then what happens next? Sale must happen next, right? If sale happens, the other side, the cost side of the sale is CGS, right? So CGS will have to be reflected here. But then before CGS, ending inventory came first. I mean, think about it. After subtracting CGS from the GAS, goods available for sale, then the result of subtracting CGS from GAS is the ending inventory. That's the chronological order and also the logical order. But why is that the order reversed here? I mean, between the ending inventory and CGS, why is the order reversed, right? I mean, the sequence is first beginning inventory, net purchase, then sale, which is, sale is reflected here. Sale is entered here. And the cost side of that sale is the CGS. That's why it's called cost of revenue. So after net purchased, what must come is CGS, and what must come at the end must be the ending inventory. But why is the order reversed? That was my question last time. And nobody, I mean, you had 2 weeks, nobody even thought about it.
I did thought about it and then look it up.
Oh, okay, hold on.
Okay.
Listen, I told you we're gonna go into a break. It's already 10:39, so we'll take a 10-minute break, and so we will reconvene and we'll reconvene at 10:50, right? And then I will give you a chance to answer that question. Okay? All righty. Let's. Okay. 10 minutes. Okay. All right, we're back. We're back. So let's get back to the question posed, last week. Actually, I left you with the question. I gave it as food for thought. So, did anyone? I believe someone said before the breaks. I believe someone said that she thought about. She's
That was
thought
me.
about. Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought about the question and then tried to look it up to get a better understanding, but I was still struggling to come up with a summary of giving you the answer to the question.
Okay, so what is your answer?
I I couldn't come up with because I didn't like I
Okay,
didn't know
okay. So the basically, your conclusion is that you tried your,
exactly
you tried to wrap your head around it and you couldn't come up with the answer. Okay.
exactly.
Um, well, appreciate your effort, but what matters here is your answer. Okay. What is your idea? What is your thought about? So anyone else? Anyone?
So I'm getting confused in the question. So your question is why an inventory is before the cost of goods sold?
Yes. Why is ending inventory placed before CGS? Because in reality, what by the order of actual, by the actual order of things happening, right?
I think
CGS happens first, and then ending inventory is that comes after that, because logically that's the way, that's the chronological order. Yeah, and your answer is
so. Ends inventory is not an expense, and also ends inventory can be the let's say the merchants that we cannot sell during that time. So that's why it's not, or it's before the cost of goods sold.
well, no,
I have
actually, no. Ending inventory is of course expense, because you paid for this ending inventory. Ending inventory is whatever is left from GAS. You understand? Ending inventory is whatever is left unsold from goods available for sale. It's whatever is left unsold from beginning inventory and net purchase. So CGS is the cost of what was sold. So ending inventory is cost of whatever is left unsold. But you already paid since ending inventory is part of ending inventory is part of beginning inventory and net purchase. Whatever is left unsold from these two items, that's ending inventory. So it was already paid for. You paid expenses for that already, right? But
Can I,
yeah. Who is that?
Anna?
Anna, yeah, Anna, go ahead.
My answer is that I think that like in an end inventory, you need that to determine the cost of goods sold. Like you need to know that before you can figure
No,
out
how
cost.
can you know? Logically, how can you know ending inventory before cost of goods? Actually, cost of goods is what you already know. Okay? Of course, logically, in reality, cost of goods sold is estimated, meaning you don't know the cost of goods sold, so you estimate it from sale. Now, the reason is, think about it. If you are a retailer, I mean, it doesn't matter whether you are a manufacturer or retailer, but if you're a retailer, you have, let's say you have, 10 different items, in your store that you're, 10 different items. Let's say sporting goods store. There must be tennis rackets, there must be tennis balls, there must be, basketballs, there must be golf clubs. I don't know if the sporting goods store is, but whatever, there must be jerseys, 10 different items. You're carrying 10 different items. They all have 10 different prices, right? Different selling prices. And then they all have different costs because they are different, made by different manufacturers. You pay different prices to, even for the tennis ball, you must have bought the tennis ball from 3 different manufacturers, and 3 different manufacturers' prices may be slightly all different. Obviously, you would go for the one that has the lowest price, but they 3 different manufacturers would have, and they 3 different prices. So you pay 3 different prices. That your cost will be different, even for the tennis ball, and even from one manufacturer. Even from one manufacturer, even from the same manufacturer, there are different points in time. You purchased the tennis balls from manufacturer X during the last quarter, but you purchased at 3 different points, right? During the last quarter, in the first month of the last quarter, you bought 1,000 units from manufacturer X, and then in the second month, another 1,000 units. In the third month of the last quarter, another 1,000 units. So total, you bought total of 3,000 units from manufacturer X alone. But again, at these different points, the price could have been different. You understand? Manufacturers X, the same manufacturer, the price in the first month and the second month, third month could have been all different, right? That's all, understandable, because think about it. Last quarter was, we are in September now, so we're still in the third quarter. So let's say second quarter is what? April, May, June, right? So last quarter, think about it. Tennis is basically an outdoor sports, right? So as weather warms up, April, May, June, as the weather warms up, people play tennis more, right? Rather than January or February. February, January, that's the month. Those are the months that people generally don't play outdoors, right? Tennis, they don't play tennis, So obviously, as the weather warms up, like May, June, April, May, June, the demand for tennis balls will also go up. As the demand goes up, the price could go up. So even by a few cents, the price, there would be a price differential. And this is the price that, as a retailer who runs the sporting goods store, this is the price that you pay the manufacturer. So that's the cost to you. Isn't that right? That's the cost to you. It's not the price that you charge your customer, right? That's the cost. But think about it. When you sell tennis balls, then it will be registered as revenue, right? The sale will be registered, and the tennis balls, you sell the tennis balls for, and I don't know how tennis balls are sold. Maybe in a cylinder, there are maybe like 5 tennis balls in a cylinder. That's what it used to be in the old days. So each tennis ball is, let's say, 50 cents. So in a cylinder, 5 tennis balls, that must be $2.50. I don't know, maybe $5. $5. Let's say, each tennis ball is $1. But you pay when you buy it from the manufacturer, you pay 50 cents. But not every time. I mean, in April, it could have been 45 cents. In May, it could have been 50 cents. In June, it could have been 55 cents. But when you sell, let's say you sell for $1 for each tennis ball, let's say, across the board. So just from the revenue, just from the sales revenue, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell what is the exact cost of, if you sold, 100 tennis balls, and each ball, so that would be $100. Revenue would be $100, but you don't know what is the exact cost of those 100 tennis balls sold, because unless you trace it back to when it was purchased, right? You understand?
Professor, excuse me, can I ask?
Hold on. Let me finish.
Okay.
Unless you can trace it back to when it was purchased and from which manufacturer it came from. Of course, these days, it can be all traced back these days, because if they all, because it's all bar-coded. So simply following the barcode, you can trace it back. But in the old days, when there was no barcode, it was hard to trace it back to which manufacturer and when it was bought. So it was you had to estimate it. You just had to estimate it in the old days. So another way you can. So I said, why? Since Anna said, you have to know ending inventory first to know the cost of goods sold. Yeah, that's partly correct. That's partly correct, because in the old days, by counting the ending inventory, by checking the ending inventory, and if you have, you originally had, 1,000 tennis balls, and you sold, 800 tennis balls, then there will be 200 tennis balls left. And then in the ending inventory, 200 tennis balls are left. So by estimating the cost of the ending inventory, right? By estimating the cost of ending inventory, right? And in the ending inventory, you don't know the 200 tennis balls. It would be a mix. It would be a mix of all different purchase point and all different manufacturers, right? So even if it came from one manufacturer only, but depending on at what point in time they were purchased, the prices would be different. So they had to estimate the cost of ending inventory, right? In the old days. And then that's why there is inventory cost, inventory estimation technique, inventory valuation technique, and so on. But the thing is, by estimating the cost of ending inventory, then you could get cost of goods sold. So it's all estimation based. But as I told you, that was the old days. And now, since everything is barcoded, right? Just as you make the sale, the barcode is scanned. So obviously that information is fed into your computer, so you can trace it back to when it was purchased and at what cost, at what price it was purchased. So cost of goods sold should be known already. It can be known already, right? It can be known already, and the ending so you don't have to switch this order, but this is always cost of ending inventory is always at the bottom. It's ending inventory. It comes after ending inventory. So we can tell it's not necessarily the chronological order. It's not exactly the order that it is happening. The things are happening. But so the question still remains. Yeah, and someone was trying to say something, right? Was it Anna? Who was trying to say something? You said you had a question, right?
Yes, Tyra.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out, for me to make a profit with my goods in my storeroom, is it better for me to shop wholesale and then resell, or just shop retail and then resell that? And two questions. And another thing, if I have 100 of my tennis balls in stock, and then I mark down the date of purchase and the
What do
sale
you mean?
price. As I
Okay,
retail,
hold on. Markdown, what do you mean by markdown? I mean, you can mark down the price, but the date, how can you mark down the date?
the date I purchased my 100
Okay,
ball, the date I
what
got
you're
my
saying is,
inventory.
okay, you can
I
say,
keep
okay, I hear you. What you're saying is you keep the record of the day
right.
of
Okay,
your
I'll keep
purchase.
the
Yeah,
record of
yeah,
my.
yeah. Of course, of course. And markdown means you're actually reducing
Okay,
price.
I said
Markdown
that
means
wrong.
mhm,
Not a markdown in price. I
mhm,
record the day I purchase my goods.
mhm.
As
Yeah.
I sell each item, I
Mhm.
then mark down the date I do that. At the end of the week, if I keep track, or at the end of
Yeah,
2 weeks,
yeah, yeah.
end of the month,
Yeah, I
then I'll.
understand. But
Okay, so
yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
thing is, for
Mhm,
me to make a profit on what
mhm,
I have in stock,
mhm,
is it
mhm.
best for me to purchase my goods wholesale?
Okay. Yeah, yes, of course. Look, you are a retailer yourself. If you're selling something, if you're selling a physical good, you are a retailer yourself, unless you're a middleman.
Right.
If you're so there is no such thing as you're buying from there is no such thing as you buying from a retailer, because you're a retailer yourself. Why would you buy
Right.
from another
Okay.
retailer? And if you're buying from another retailer, because you have to mark it up, I mean, because you bought from another retailer, so you have to mark it up um, to have some profit margin for yourself, then your products will be more expensive than your competitors. Nobody will buy from you. Right? So you don't buy from another retailer. If you're selling something, you're a retailer yourself. So the question is whether you buy directly from the manufacturer or from a wholesaler.
Okay.
The question is, and in the old days, small businesses generally, if you're a small business, you don't have the resources to directly approach a contact and approach, and I mean you can contact and approach the manufacturer, but then logistics would be very costly because you have to ship the goods directly from the manufacturer to your store, and the logistics cost of logistics would be very expensive, so it won't be beneficial. I mean,
Profitable to go
right,
that route.
profitable to do that. That's why the wholesaler or the middleman comes in. The middleman would do that on a large scale from the manufacturer, so they have the cost advantage in that logistics, right? And then
Right.
but these days, yeah, even small businesses, look,
Uh-huh.
even as a regular just a consumer, even as a consumer, you shop everything online from uh, uh, Amazon, and the manuf look think about it. There's something called direct marketing, right? Direct marketing is what manufacturers market directly to the consumers. There's something like Dell computer. You don't have to go to Best Buy to buy Dell computer. You can shop directly from Dell. But then there is still some benefit. I mean, then obviously Best Buy cannot compete with Dell. Best Buy is a retailer because they are directly selling the computers to you. obviously they will have to make something. If they buy from the computers from Dell, they must make something. So there's a profit margin. But then if they are direct, can they directly compete with Dell, the manufacturer? They have to directly compete with the manufacturer because manufacturer is directly marketing. But then if you actually go to Best Buy, the deal is actually better. You can buy at a better price than when you're buying directly from Dell. So
Okay, is it because of the amount you would have to buy? Is it the more you buy, is it the less you pay?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, there's a part. Yeah, that's a good,
okay.
a good reason. That's partially a very good reason. That's partly because of that. Because when Best Buy buys computers from the manufacturer, they buy it on a massive scale, so they get a volume discount. Obviously, they get a volume discount, which cannot be, extended to an individual consumer, right? I mean, if you're buying directly from Dell, you don't get that, advantage. And also, Dell wouldn't want to think about it. Dell wouldn't want to compete directly with their retailer because think about it. If Dell if Dell is selling directly to the consumers, and then if they do better than the Best Buy, then Best Buy will obviously be, hey, what's the point? We're selling your products for you, but you are cannibalizing. I mean, think about it. Best Buy is also, if from Dell's perspective, from Dell's standpoint, if if they can sell 1 million computers through their direct marketing and another 1 million computers through Best Buy, through the retail chain, wouldn't it be? I mean, it's a win-win situation. Wouldn't it be a best scenario for them? Huh? I mean, if they
Trying
think
to
about it,
cut down and make me a deal. Yeah, it would be.
and
It's best for
but
them.
look, if I underprice my retailer, and let's say if I can sell 2 million computers, if I sell 2 million computers through direct marketing by undercutting uh, my retailer, Best Buy, then yeah, for me it would be the same. Um, you might think, yeah, I get, I sell directly 2 million, but then think about it. That means less revenue because I have to underprice my retailer. By underpricing my retailer, um, uh, I lose another venue, another channel to market my product. I mean, I may sell 2 million units, but my revenue will be smaller than when I have direct marketing, direct sale, and as well through the retailer. I mean, of course, retailers, when they buy the computer from me, let's say the price is $500 to my retailer. Retailer will sell it at $300 from the manufacturer, and the retailer will sell it for 500 probably. Then I would sell, if I were to sell through direct marketing, I would sell it at 500 or slightly below that, because I wouldn't sell above my retailer's price. I would match the price of the retailer or slightly below. If it is slightly below, then if it is significantly below my retailer's price, then buyers have no incentive to buy from the retailer, but just buy directly from me, right? And then I will lose my retailer, and losing my retailer means I'm losing my market exposure, right? Retailers have as a as a as a manufacturer, my exposure to or my interface with the buyers is only online, but retailers have physical brick and mortar stores, which is direct interface with the consumers. So I don't want to lose that brick and mortar exposure to my consumers. If I lose my retailer is basically cooperating with me. And if I lose my retailer, then I lose my market exposure. That will be directly related to my market share. My market share will go down. So I wouldn't want to do that, because if I do that as a manufacturer, then it's like cannibalizing my own sale. Isn't that right? Does that make sense?
Exactly.
Yeah, it does.
Exactly.
Okay, good. So if I direct market, I would just match the price with my retailer or slightly lower, slightly, so that there will be at least some incentive for consumers to buy directly from me. Okay. So anyway, to answer, that was the first question. That was the first question, isn't that right? The second question was what? I forgot your second question. But that, let me know. So anyway, so what was before you ask the question? So what was so does anyone have answer to my question? And as I say, that also that reminds me of your second question. You say you're keeping track of your all inventory purchase. Look, you don't have to do it physically. I mean, you're taking a note, you're marking it down on your notebook or in a journal. Look, yeah,
Right.
you can. But I told you, these days everything is barcoded. Everything is
Right.
barcoded.
Yeah.
So as you make the sale, you scan the barcode and everything will. So that information will feed
With the
into your
crease, right.
store. So it will track down, at what point it was purchased. So I told you, these days. CGS is not necessarily estimated. CGS can be calculated as the sale is made, right? CGS can be automatically calculated, but still, I mean, you don't have that system. If you don't have the system, then CGS will have to be estimated, or inventory will have to be estimated through inventory valuation.
Manually, right. Understand fully. I was just trying to draw a reference, but I do understand. Yeah. Understand.
So,
Thank you.
but my question is, based on although CGS can be automatically, these days, CGS can be automatically, computed, automatically at the point of sale, because when you barcode will, but that's not always the case. Think about it. If you have like clothing store, sporting goods store, that's fine. If you're a restaurant, the food prepared, how can it be? If you're running a restaurant, you serve the food, but the sales record, as you make the sale, when the customer pays with a credit card or whatever, with a cash or whatever, the cash register will record the sale. The revenue is automatically recorded, but how does that automatically trace it back to the raw material, the inventory of raw material? Think about it. It's not barcoded, right? I mean, the food is not barcoded, right? Unless it is in a so it's not that easy. Yeah, it's not, even if it is prepared, right? How do you trace it to okay, it's a sandwich. So there's a lettuce, there's bread, there is a lettuce, there is tomato, there is bacon and BLT. So how does that automatically trace it back to the bacon, lettuce, bread, tomato? and the point of purchase, when it was purchased at what price. It's not directly, it's not like, one tennis ball is already a finished good, and when you sell it, it's still one tennis ball, isn't it right? But BLT, if you sell a BLT, it came from a batch of, a lettuce that you bought, and it's not exactly 1-to-1. You understand? One tomato doesn't exactly turn into one BLT sandwich.
So I have a question on that.
It's
So
not that. Okay,
my question
have
on that is, if I'm doing, like you said, sandwich, so is it profitable for me to say, okay, batch of lettuce, batch of tomatoes, some ham, all that came up to $300, and hopefully try to make that $300 back? You can't make it that same night. So would you break down the cost and everything for the week, the month, and see how you make a profit on that? How would that work?
Yeah, well, look, eventually the sale will be by unit. I mean,
Okay.
one sandwich. Basically, but you will have to balance it out by the total, as long as if you bought 1 pound of ham, or 1 pound of if you bought 1 pound of bacon and 1 pound of lettuce, 1 pound of tomato, you would know how many sandwiches can be made from that 1 pound
Right.
each, right?
Okay.
Then
Yes.
you must break even at least, right? To break even, how many sandwiches must be made and sold, right? Out of these, 1 pound of ham, 1 pound of lettuce, 1 pound of tomato, right? And then you must make and sell more than the units of sandwich, number of sandwiches that uh, uh, that would break even, right? If out of 1 pound of each component, right? It's not only the raw material. There's your time. If you have an employee who makes that sandwich, you have to also factor in the wage. But let's say you are doing it yourself. Mainly your labor is not factored into that. It's mainly the cost of material, and then you can find a break-even point. I mean, it cost you $30 to purchase those raw materials. If it was $30, that means to break even, you must sell sandwiches, more sandwiches than more than break even. You must sell more sandwiches than uh, $30 worth, right? But this
Okay.
can all be tailored, all right, and you must sell more than that unit. Now, back to my question. So although CGS can be, this has taken so much time. The CGS can be traced back by these days. Why don't they put CGS here, and why do they put ending inventory there first? Hmm? That was my question. So anybody? So this is I think this is a mind-numbing question. But look, we all understand the actual order of things. There's beginning inventory, right? That, of course, we all know. It cannot. There's no dispute. As we begin the operating period, which is quarter, because it's quarterly, right? It's all the operating financial statements are updated quarterly, right? So but let's say we begin the month, and as we begin the month, there is a beginning inventory, which is ending inventory that's carried over from the last month. So that means last month ended with ending inventory, of course. That's why it's called ending inventory. And then we make some net purchase because additional purchase because beginning inventory alone cannot meet the demand for this month. And so and then together is called GAS, goods available for sale. And then sale happens next, right? Sale will be recorded here. And then the other side, the cost side of the sale, the cost side of the revenue is CGS. So CGS comes next, but not, it's ending, the order is switched. And why? I'm giving you the answer. The answer is only because CGS is the conclusion of this. CGS is the conclusion of that section. You understand? Think about it. Should the conclusion be the, oh, what am I doing? Oh. What I'm saying is, what should be the conclusion of this section? What should be the conclusion of the direct cost? What should be the conclusion of the direct cost? Inventory? Huh? Ending inventory? No, ending inventory is the end result, but the conclusion of the direct cost section must be the CGS. You understand? Why? Because we're talking about cost. We're talking about expenses, right? We're talking about the expenses. And if you are talking about expenses, because expenses will be subtracted from the total income, right? So we have to have CGS as the conclusion of the direct cost and operating expense OPEX as the conclusion of the indirect cost, so that we will add these two, right, and subtract the sum of those two from this. You understand? You cannot add this to this. You cannot add ending inventory and operating expense and subtract it from total income. Think about it. What we must subtract from the total income is direct cost and indirect cost, right? So CGS has to be the conclusion of the direct cost section, and OPEX must be the conclusion of the indirect cost section. That's why. It's really structural issue, right? Structurally, if this is not the conclusion of this section, everything will be wrong. Okay, does everyone understand that now?
Yeah.
Okay, this may seem very trivial. It may seem very trivial, but it is, logically indisputable fact. And structurally, it has to be structurally, the conclusion of that section. Okay, all righty. So it's almost 11:30. So we spent too much time on. So I'm gonna put you on another 10-minute break, and it seems like my connection status, I don't know. I don't have any static, fortunately, but usually when it is like this, when the connection status is like this, usually, would have a lot of static. Can you hear me Can you hear me? Can you hear me well? I mean, you have any issue hearing me? Do you have any issue hearing me?
No.
No, your
I can
connection
hear
is
you
good.
perfectly.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Because this bar is red. That means my connection status is not good. So I think it's a good time to put you on a break and then reconvene in exactly at 11:40, and hopefully during the break this will improve. Alrighty, let's take a 10-minute.
Okay.
All right, we're back. We're back. I hope everyone is back. So, uh, this is really a scrutiny. It's a scrutiny, right? Not just a, superficial view, but in-depth, soul-searching of the income statement. Um, because uh, what do these line items serve? What is the meaning of this? Not just you have to do this, this and that. Usually, accounting classes uh, just don't deal with anything about deep soul searching behind it. They just tell you do this, do this, do this, that. But I don't like that. This class isn't. This class is more about the uh, systemic and structural understanding of everything that is related to finance, not just doing the process, not just going through the motions, and a lot of times some student a lot of times I've seen students asking me, so what do I do here, what professor, what do I do here, what do I do here? They just ask me, what they are asking me is not about the logical reasoning behind it or analytical reasoning behind it. They just want to know what is the step here, in while they are going through the motion. Nothing but just going through the motions. But somehow um, that kind of question comes quite often from the students who took accounting before, because in accounting they don't tell you um, why. They don't try to explain why. They don't try to explain why, but just through the motion, going through the motion. Okay. I'm sorry. I'll have to answer this. I'm getting a call. Let me answer this call. It's simple. Um, excuse me a minute. Hello. Yeah. Yeah. Hi. Yeah. Good on. Good. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Actually, yeah. I wasn't able to answer the call, but yeah. I picked up the phone anyway. So. So you want me to repeat my question or you have my question? Okay. No problem. No problem. So we're supposed to reach everyone. Yeah. And it's about opening a business account. But when you open a business account, do I need to bring in the paper, or because I have here I have to sort of and so basically what I have to do, I have to, but I don't. So my tax, my tax return, so tax wise, I don't think there's a problem. So All right, thank you. All right. All right, bye-bye. All righty, sorry about that. It was from a bank, from my bank, so I had to. So where was I? Okay, so structurally, it's quite, I would like to show this. I mean, this was, you saw this, you saw this earlier, right? Like, in the first class. The bare knuckles, the bare knuckles of the structure of income statement is, basically sales revenue, which is, in this case, they didn't put any investment income. With no investment income, it's a sales revenue. And then they don't, CGS and operating expenses must be subtracted together. But, in this example, they just subtracted CGS first. And then the result is called gross margin or gross profit. But the gross margin or gross profit, I've been telling you, is not is not fully representative of your first level of profit. So I normally don't do this. But if you subtract, so ignore this. So you subtract CGS and OPEX from total income, then you arrive at operating income or operating profit or EBIT. Now, so that is the first level of first layer of profit. So here we arrived at by subtracting CGS and operating expenses from total income. From this, I subtracted, if you look here, from K5, subtracted sum of K11 and K17. Okay. So by subtracting these two, then think about it. In a very rough scheme, of things, revenue minus cost is profit. Revenue minus cost is profit. Isn't that right? Is there anyone who has any other thought? Revenue minus cost is profit. Now, why didn't I say, total income? Yeah, it's total income minus, cost, basically, right? But then total cost, right? Total cost, because this is direct cost, this is indirect cost. So total income minus total cost is profit. But that's a rough measure of profit. Yeah. Why? And I said I assumed revenue was total revenue was just total income, because just to simplify, we investment income is incidental, meaning if there is any investment, then there will be investment income. If there is no investment, there's no investment income, right? So it's incidental, right? So investment income is incidental. It could be zero or it could be some positive number, right? But even without any investment income, you must have sales revenue, because that's the primary source of income. Nobody can have any, income without sales revenue. So roughly, total revenue minus total cost, and total cost is basically a total variable cost plus total fixed cost, right? So if you subtract, from this, the sum of these two, which is total cost, right? It's called, operating income. And another name for operating income is called, another name is also called EBIT. So I'm gonna write down everything here. So total revenue minus total cost is called profit. Pi is the symbol for profit in microeconomics. In macroeconomics, it's the symbol for inflation. But in microeconomics context, it's profit. But this is, not net profit yet. It's just, it's called, operating profit. So I think I should call this come on. It's called operating profit. Okay. Now, operating profit is also called EBIT. And what do you think that stands for? It's an acronym, clearly. It's an acronym.
Earnings before interest and taxes?
Yes, earnings before interest and taxes. And who was that?
Anna.
Anna. So I'm going to give you another 0.25 point for answering that, Anna. Yeah, it's literally earnings before interest and taxes. So then think about it. From the name, it's already self-revealing or self-explanatory or self-predictive. Isn't it right? Because it's already, it's called EBIT, right? Earnings before interest and taxes. Then we can easily tell what's going to come next. What's going to come next? So what should come next?
Earnings
Because
after taxes?
no. It will come eventually, but then right after earnings before interest and taxes, what should come right after that?
Oh, the taxes themselves.
No.
The operating profit?
Operating profit is EBIT. So how can the same thing come after the same thing?
Isn't it the
And it is. Am I not
cost of
sharing
goods sold?
What? Cost of goods sold? Cost of goods sold was already before operating profit. Have some logic, please. Think logically. We arrived at operating profit or operating income or EBIT because we have subtracted cost of goods sold and operating expenses from total income. Right?
Gonna be net income?
No. I'm sharing my screen with you, and you have this file already with you.
Professor, I cannot see the screen. My screen just turned black, literally. I don't know if I was the only one, but I texted the group chat to ask someone if I'm the
Well,
only
I'm sure you're the only one because I'm sharing my screen. Because if I'm sharing, everyone else everyone else can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, if you don't see anything, it means you might need to refresh your browser. If it doesn't fix the problem, then you need to update your browser. You'll need to update your browser.
Okay.
Or it could be your RAM. Your computer's RAM is probably lacking. But if you see my screen, you can tell already right after operating income. What do you see?
Taxes?
No, don't you see interest first? Interest is the name is earnings before interest and taxes. Before interest and taxes. So then what comes after? What should come next? What should come next? Interest. Interest payment.
This is Janet. My apologies. I think we did not understand your question.
My question was, what comes after earnings before interest and taxes? What comes after operating profit? Was it that difficult? What comes after this? What interest payment comes after that? That's why the name is, that's why the EBIT, the name EBIT is earnings before interest and taxes, right? That's why the name is that's why self-predictive, is self-explanatory, is self-predicted. if self-predictive, right? Because if it is EBIT, earnings before interest and tax, if this is earnings before interest and taxes, then what comes after that? Interest has to come after that. Isn't it obvious? And then after interest, then taxes must come after that. Does everyone follow?
Yo, Professor?
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay. Someone says yes, someone said no. Who said no?
Professor, can I log out and then come back in because my screen is still black, like I can't see nothing.
Yeah. You have already my permission to do that. You don't have to ask me,
Just wanted
because
to make sure.
because you said you cannot see anything on your screen. I already, as I told you to,
Yeah.
refresh the browser, and you have already the permission, because
Okay.
look. And why is there a background noise? I think somebody's microphone is still on. I guess I will have to.
Now I see it. Okay.
All righty. But I hear some background noise. So can you please mute your microphone? It's coming from somebody's microphone, obviously. All righty. So here, let me get back to this. Total revenue minus total cost is obviously profit, but it's not net profit. It's operating profit. Operating profit. It goes by many names. It goes by operating income or EBIT. Okay, that's why I put there EBIT. And it stands for earnings before interest and taxes. So that means earnings is the same thing as profit, but this is not the net profit. This is the profit before paying interest and taxes. You understand? EBIT means literally, and from the name, can't you tell? From the name is already self-revealing. The name is already self-predicting. Name is already self-explanatory. You understand? If the name is earnings before interest and taxes, then what does that mean? The name says it is before paying interest and taxes. So what must come next? What must come next is paying interest. You understand?
Yep.
And paying interest, yeah, good. Paying interest means if you're paying interest, that means you have debt. So how do you have debt? You have debt because when you start, it's in the balance sheet. When you start up this business, you have borrowed from the lenders. You have borrowed to raise capital to start up this business. You have borrowed from bank. You borrowed, a mortgage, and then you sold bonds to borrow. Okay. Now this is finance to 30. It's not finance 100. In finance 100, we did this too. We did the financial statements too. And we talked about the bonds in finance 100. So you should know why we have bonds, right? You should know no company can, unless you're just starting up a small, hole in the wall store, right? In a third world country, they cut a hole in the wall. It's still there in the third world countries. I mean, a hole in the wall, and then they sell, usually, snacks and small items, minor items. That's called hole in the wall store, And if you're opening, if that's your business, if you're starting up such a business, then it doesn't take that much capital. It doesn't take that much capital to start up. But if you are starting up something like a manufacturing, you will need, like tens of millions of dollars at least. And tens of millions of dollars, how do you raise it? You'll have to borrow, right? Owner's equity. I mean, you sell your house, you sell your cars. I mean, if you had several millions of dollars, if you had a house, a million, worth millions of dollars, and cars, like several cars, Lamborghini, Bentley, Porsche, cars like this, which are all, like about, $100,000. I mean, you sell all of that, and you can also use that capital. That's called owner's equity, right? But unless obviously that cannot foot the bill. I mean, selling the house, selling the cars, still that falls way short, right? You cannot foot the bill for starting up the manufacturing business because manufacturing business requires a plant, and the plant will cost at least something like tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars at least. So obviously, if it is tens of millions of dollars, and by selling your house, selling your cars, selling your valuables, it cannot foot the bill. So you have to borrow. The rest
You
of
can
it.
also borrow from a friend or family that is like wealthy.
What?
I said you can borrow money from friends or family too, if you don't want to sell your house for example.
Yeah, of course. You can, but still, it's the same thing. I
Mm.
mean, but how, friends and family. What kind of business are you talking about here? What kind of business are you talking about here? A hole in the wall store? Huh? I mean, are your friends, how many wealthy friends, and family do you have? Can they lend you like millions of dollars? Even if they can, let's say, even if they can, they
Uh-huh.
are lenders. Yeah, still,
True.
you have them as lenders, you have them as creditors,
True.
you have them as debt holders, and you have an obligation. Yeah,
Mm.
exactly. I mean, you don't have to borrow directly, you don't have to borrow from the bank only,
Yeah.
but unless your family and friends can lend you like tens of millions of dollars, right? Huh?
Yeah.
Don't even talk about your friends and family unless your friends and family can
Mm.
lend you tens of millions of dollars, right? We're not talking about a hole in the wall store. We're not talking about hole in the wall business. We're talking about a manufacturing. If you're talking about manufacturing, right?
Right.
Um, Even if your friends and family can lend you tens of millions of dollars, right? Yeah, you will need to borrow money, right? And then
True.
um, to the lenders, to the creditors, right? When I repeat these terms, you gotta take down the note and memorize. Lender is the same thing as creditor. It means that they are the synonyms. Lender, creditor, debt holders,
Mm.
bond holders, they all mean the same thing, right? Of course,
Right.
bond holders, you can only sell bond only when you're accepted in the stock exchange, when you're listed in the bond market,
Mm.
accepted in the bond market, but startup businesses cannot be. So obviously, it's only a hypothetical situation, and your loan, your debt must have come only can come only from the bank, and it's not even easy to borrow as a startup business. It's almost impossible, next to impossible, to borrow tens of millions of dollars from a bank,
Facts.
right? Understand?
Yep.
You're a startup. The banks won't lend to you. You have nothing to put up as collateral, right? But hypothetically, let's say you borrowed. hypothetically, you borrowed, then you have an obligation to pay interest.
True.
Isn't that right? You have an
Right.
obligation to pay interest. So
And
that's
plus,
why.
as the amount is higher, the interest is also high. So, whew.
Yeah. If you borrowed $10 million, of course, if you borrowed $10 million, and if your interest rate is 10%, yes, that's $1 million a year, right? And if you borrowed, $100 million, 100 million, of course, if the interest rate is still 10%, still your interest is $10 million a year, right? So of course, the higher the amount, the higher the interest payment. But be careful. You must distinguish the situations. The context. If you may, the higher the amount, It's not necessarily that the higher the interest rate. Interest rate doesn't depend on the amount you borrow. Interest rate depends on your credit rating. Okay. And also other factors. If you, as an individual, there will be other factors, but for businesses, whether you have, a collateral or not. If you have a collateral, you can have a lower interest rate. But if you don't have any collateral, interest rate will be very high.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, so separate. You must distinguish the interest from interest rate. Interest rate is the rate, percentage. Interest is the dollar amount. Okay. So because it is called EBIT, right? EBIT, I've been telling you, operating income, operating profit, and EBIT are the same thing. And EBIT, since from the name already, you can tell what it's gonna, the name is already self-explanatory. The name is already, self-predictive. It's already name is already predicting what's gonna happen next, right? Because it's earnings before interest and taxes. What must come next? What must happen next is interest payment, right? And you have interest payment because you have debt. And then subtracting the interest payment. Now, I normally don't put it there, but we're almost out of time, but let me quickly. So after paying interest, what should be the result? Okay, what should you call the result after paying? From the EBIT, you pay the interest. From the EBIT, you pay the interest, and the result is called what? What is the result called? If you pay out interest from EBIT, what should it be called? Anyone?
Earnings after interest.
No. That's a good try. I mean, at least you're thinking. That means you're logically, logically reasoning. Yeah, that's not, that's true. You're correct. But earnings after interest. But it's not called that way. It's called EBT. Okay, it's called EBT. Think about it. That's the name it should be called, because from EBIT, I is done. I is gone already. I is gone. So what should remain? EBT. I is interest is paid. So now it's called earnings before taxes. Right? Makes sense? Earnings before taxes. So what is the earnings before taxes? We can easily find it by. So everyone is okay with that? So I will subtract from that. The interest. So this is the earnings before taxes. Another name for earnings before taxes is, well, think about it. Now this is the earnings that you have before paying taxes. So hence EBT. But then what is another name? What can be another name for that? Since this is the income, then this is the income before paying taxes. What should be the appropriate name for that? What do you think is the appropriate name for that? Anyone?
Net income?
Gross margin.
What? It's not net income. We're still it's
I
not
can
net
say
income.
gross margin.
No. Gross margin is totally out of context. Gross margin is this. Gross margin is when you subtract only CGS. When you subtract CGS, only CGS from total income. And that is total. And I told you already, as I was talking about that, gross profit is not gross profit is not a very legitimate member. Gross profit is not a very legitimate member of the income statement. It is. Why? Because it can be misleading. And think about it. They like to call this gross margin or gross profit, but gross profit is really it can be a fraud. It's a fraudulent, thing. Why? Suppose someone tells you, oh well, this company made, this company made, their revenue was $10 million, and their gross profit was, suppose this is 10 million. Their gross profit was, $8 million. 8 million. Oh, that sounds like a big deal, don't you think? Oh, their revenue was only, sales revenue was 10 million, but gross profit is 8 million. Then their profit margin is 80%. This is a lucrative business. Huh? Think about it. You have a business and your sales revenue was 10 million, but your profit was 8 million. Sounds like a wonderful business. 80% profit margin. Wonderful business. Huh? What kind of, but then this is, think about it. What is missing here? What is missing here is, if the gross profit was 80 million, 8 million, that means their CGS, direct cost, was only 2 million. Right? Yeah, it can be possibly, their cost, direct cost may be small, but then they are hiding something yet. What is that? Operating expense. You gotta see what is the operating expense to tell whether it is there is a profit or not. Why? If the operating expense was 8 million, what if the operating expense was 8 million? Huh? Is there any profit or not? Can someone tell me? Huh? If operating expense was 8 million, is this a good business or not? Is this a profitable business or not?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
It is? It is?
I think so.
Are you crazy?
No.
Is anyone awake? I said operating expenses 8 million.
Oh, no.
No,
Anyone
that
logical?
would be too much.
No, yeah.
How?
Anyone who thinks logically, now think about it. It's like you have 10 million for this. Oh Jesus. We already passed it. This is 10 million. And this is 2 million. And just by subtracting this 2 million from 10 million, of course you get an 8 million. And this is gross profit. They call this gross profit or gross margin. They call this gross profit. Think about it. Then how stupid that is. Because if the operating expenses, you have to consider operating expenses, and if the operating expenses are 8 million, then what is this number? Then what will be this number? What will be the EBIT? Anyone? What will be the operating profit then?
0.
0, yes. Is it Anna?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad at least one person is thinking logically. Look, that's why I've been telling you gross profit is illegitimate line item. Because you cannot tell the profitability of a business by gross profit. Because if they are lying about, if they are not telling you, if they are not showing the operating expense, if they are saying just by gross profit, you can tell 8 million, that's 80% profit margin, and blah, blah, blah. You're misled by that con man. Donald Trump will be telling you like that. Donald Trump will be telling you, oh, this business is, making $8 million gross profit. Believe you me. And he's not going to be telling you anything about the operating expenses. Why? Because they have a fraudulent intent. They have ulterior motive. If they're not telling you what is the operating expenses, of course you can demand them. You can request, let me see your full, let me see your full, financial statements. But if you're not going by the fundamentals, in other words, if you're not going by the fundamentals, the financial statements, and just play it by your ears, they told me, Donald Trump told me this business had gross profit of 8 million. Their revenue was 10 million. So they have, 80% profit margin. That's not really profit margin. That's only gross margin. And just because of that, just by that, because they are playing it by ear, you're trying to play it by ear. That's a stupid thing. If you're trying to play it by ear, you got to look at their financial statements. And then you say, oh, this is a profitable business. That's obviously a stupid thing. You got to tell, what is the operating expenses? What if the operating expense was 8 million? Right? You understand? So don't even talk about gross profit. Who was talking about gross profit? That's just mindless. Just, saying gross profit, that means you're not thinking. You're just mindlessly just uttering out anything that comes to your mind. Think, please, logically.
We apologize, Professor.
Well,
on behalf of the whole class.
You don't have to. I mean, you're not the one. You're not the one. The whole 2 hours I've been. So here, the question was, what is another name for earnings before taxes? Now think about it. The other name that's only appropriate here is taxable income. Think about it. Isn't that right? Because that's the income before paying taxes. So that's taxable income. What else can it be? Right? Another name for that, taxable income. Now, then, what comes next? Obviously, what should come next is taxes. Tax must come next because it's earnings before taxes, earnings before taxes, then if it is earnings before taxes, then taxes must come next. So you pay taxes then. And after paying taxes, finally, you arrive at net income or net profit. Net income or net profit. Okay? So another name for net income or net profit is, so if we follow this logic, you understand the naming logic in this column of this column, when operating income or operating profit is called EBIT, right? And it has a logic to that name. It has a logic. It's earnings before interest and taxes. So and then taxable income is called EBT, earnings before taxes. So then after paying taxes, what should it be called? Following this naming logic, what should it be called? Anyone?
EAT.
EAT, yes. And who was that?
I
Who
said
gave me
two.
that answer?
I said
Huh? I said two. Okay. I said two. I will give you 0.25 for that. Yeah, literally, it's earnings after taxes. Okay. So we are out of time. We're already 15 minutes past. I will have to wrap it up. So let me go back to this. So total revenue minus total cost, just roughly, it's called operating profit, which is also called EBIT. Now, so then I can break it down further. Total revenue is price times quantity, and total cost can be broken down into, what can total cost be broken down into? What is it broken down into? How do you break down total cost? You should know this. Total cost consists of, this is
The indirect expenses and the direct expenses.
yeah. And what's another name for that? Well, is total variable cost
and total fixed cost.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Who gave me that answer?
Anna.
Anna. Okay. Anna, you got another 0.25 for that. Yeah. At least someone remembers, what total cost, is made of. Yes. Okay. Then that's, operating profit, right? Operating profit. Usually, in microeconomics, they just call this, they don't make distinction between operating profit and net profit. They just call that, profit. But, to be more specific, that is operating profit. And only after paying out interest and taxes, you arrive at net profit or net income, which is also called EAT, earnings after taxes. All right, so we're out of time. I want you to please, I will also update this, recording of today's session. But please, try to backtrack everything, after the class. All right, so I'm gonna stop recording, and I
Professor,
will
I
see
have
you.
a question.
I'm sorry, I have an appointment. I cannot. It's already
Okay, no problem.
12:30.
No problem.
So
It was
yeah,
about the
well,
first homework. No problem.
yeah. So schedule an appointment if you wanna. I have office hours, so send me an email to schedule an appointment, right?
Right.
All righty. I'm already 15 minutes past, so I will see you guys all next Saturday. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Take care,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
You're
Have a good
welcome.
day.
You too.